A spider gave a little girl a thread, and that thread saved an entire village. There was once a village called Sankofa, a place so full of life that even the trees used to dance. The river sang every morning. The crops grew tall enough to touch the clouds, and the people laughed so loud that neighboring villages could hear them from miles away. But that was before the drought came. The river stopped singing. The crops turned to dust, and the laughter disappeared. The elders gathered and made a painful decision. If the water did not return in 3 days, Sankofa would be abandoned forever. But there was one girl, a girl named Adisa, who refused to accept that answer. She sat under the great baobab tree that night, her clay pot empty beside her, her mind racing. She did not know what to do. She only knew she could not do nothing. And that is exactly the kind of person Anansi the spider had been watching for. Out of the darkness, a spider appeared. Not just any spider. Anansi, the great trickster, the great storyteller, the keeper of all the world's wisdom, descended on a thread of pure gold. He placed that thread in Adisa's hand. It was warm. It hummed like it was alive. Anansi told her, "Follow this thread." It would lead her to 3 teachers. Each one held a piece of the answer she was searching for. But she had to truly listen, not just hear, truly listen to each of them. And then, just as quickly as he appeared, Anansi was gone. Adisa looked at the thread. It pulled gently but firmly, pointing her away from the village and into the world beyond. She took a breath, and she walked. Now, before she meets her first teacher, I want to ask you something. What do you think she will find out there? A trickster? A spirit? An animal older than memory? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's see who is right. The thread led Adisa east across plains so wide the sky looked like it went on forever. There, beside a waterhole that had long since dried up, sat a tortoise. Ancient, still, like he had been there since before the land had a name. Adisa asked him, "Have you seen where the water has gone?" The tortoise did not answer right away. He never did anything quickly. But when he finally spoke, every word landed like a stone dropped in still water. He told her that he had not seen where the water went, but he knew exactly why it left. He looked around at the dry earth and said, "Your people took from the river every single day. But when did they last give back?" A river is not a servant. A river is a relative. And just like any relative, if you take and never give, eventually, they stop coming around. Adisa felt something shift inside her chest. She thought of all the mornings her village drew water, all the years they had taken without a single offering, without a single word of thanks. The tortoise looked at her with eyes older than the drought and said, "He who runs from the rain will walk in the mud." The answer is not in running away from your problem. It is in understanding how the problem began. The thread glowed again. It was time to move. Adisa looked back once at the tortoise. He had already closed his eyes, as if the conversation had used up his energy for the next decade. She smiled, and she walked on. The thread pulled her south into a land of rocky hills and dramatic skies, where the clouds gathered but never broke. Sitting alone among bones and feathers and ancient carved stones was a woman so old she seemed to be part of the landscape itself. She was a rainmaker, and she had been expecting Adisa. She did not need to be told about the drought. She had felt it the moment it began. She felt everything the land felt. She told Adisa the drought was not punishment. It was a message. Nature does not punish. Nature communicates, but it only speaks to those who are quiet enough to hear it. She pressed Adisa's hand flat against the earth. Adisa felt it, a slow, deep vibration, like breathing, like a heartbeat. The Rainmaker said, "The earth breathes, slowly. Everything alive has a rhythm." The mistake your village made was forgetting that you are part of that rhythm. You built walls and called yourselves separate from the land. You rushed and pushed and forced the world to move at your pace. But nature does not negotiate. It waits. And if you do not come back to its rhythm, it moves on without you. And then one single drop of rain fell from a cloudless sky and landed on the back of Adisa's hand. She looked up. There was not a cloud in sight. The Rainmaker simply nodded. The thread pulled, and Adisa walked carrying 2 lessons now, and the weight of one more still waiting for her. The final thread led her deeper than she had ever gone, into a jungle so thick and green it felt like the world was holding its breath. There, behind a hidden waterfall, stood a figure made of mist and moving water. Ageless, neither old nor young, neither loud nor silent. The spirit of the river itself. Adisa stood very still. The spirit spoke not with sound exactly, but with something that Adisa felt in her whole body, like a song you somehow already know. It told her she had done well. She had traveled far. She carried the lessons of the tortoise and the Rainmaker. She understood now why the river had gone, but understanding, the spirit said, is only half the journey. The other half is courage, because Adisa now had to go home. Stand in front of her elders, in front of her whole village, and tell them the truth. Tell them that the river did not abandon them. They abandoned the river, that they had to change not the water, not the weather, but themselves. And the spirit warned her they would not all believe her at first. Some would laugh, some would dismiss her because she was young, some would be too tired and too heartbroken to listen, but she had to speak anyway. Ubuntu, the spirit said, a word that means, I am because we are. When one person finds the truth and is brave enough to share it, the whole community grows wiser. That is how villages survive. That is how wisdom travels across generations, one brave voice at a time. The spirit reached out and touched the golden thread. It dissolved not into nothing, but into water, a thin stream that began flowing steadily back in the direction Adisa had come from. Follow the water home, the spirit said, and Adisa ran. She arrived on the third day breathless, dusty, heart pounding just as her village was preparing to leave forever. Elders were rolling up mats. Mothers were lifting children onto their backs. The village that had stood for generations was being folded up like a letter no one wanted to keep. Adisa stood in the center of it all and she called out, stop. People turned. Some were annoyed. Some were curious. One elder crossed his arms, and Adisa spoke. Her voice shook at first, but she kept going. She told them everything: the spider, the thread, the tortoise who spoke of giving back, the rainmaker who pressed her hand to a breathing earth, the river spirit who said that courage was the final ingredient. She told them the river had not abandoned them. They had drifted away from it slowly, quietly, over many years and never noticed until it was gone. She asked them for one more night, not to pack, not to leave, but to go to the riverbank together, bring offerings, sing the old songs, and simply listen. There was a long silence, and then her grandmother stepped forward and nodded. One by one, the people of Sankofa put down their bundles and followed their youngest voice to the edge of the dry riverbed. They placed fruit and grain and flowers at the river's edge. They sang songs that had not been sung in years, songs their grandparents had taught them, songs they had nearly forgotten. At first, nothing happened, but they kept singing. And then the ground trembled, just slightly. A trickle of water appeared between the stones, then more. Then, like something waking up from a long, deep sleep, the river came rushing back, full and fast and singing louder than it ever had before. The village of Sankofa erupted. Children splashed. Elders wept. People held each other and laughed the way they used to laugh, so loud, the neighboring villages could hear them from miles away. And standing at the water's edge, watching it all, was Adisa. Above her head, barely visible in the moonlight, a small spider descended on a golden thread and nodded. From the west, Anansi taught her that wisdom requires movement. You cannot find answers sitting still. From the east, the tortoise taught her that every relationship, even with a river, requires reciprocity. You must give as much as you take. From the south, the rainmaker taught her that nature has a rhythm and human beings are not above it. We are part of it. And from the heart of the continent, the river spirit taught her that truth is useless without the courage to speak it. These are not just old stories, they are instructions. Africa has always known the answers we need are woven into the world around us, into the animals, the earth, the water, and each other. We only need to follow the thread. Which of the three lessons hit you the hardest, the tortoise, the rainmaker, or the river spirit? Tell us in the comments below. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because that is how folktales survive. That is how they have always survived, passed from one voice to the next.